What's going on YouTube? Bacon here bringing another video. This one gonna be the week 8 match for the MWPA. This is the last week of the regular season, going up against Tarot and the Aerodactyl Aces this week. So last week we picked up a W against Arca and that clinched us a playoff spot. This week there's not a whole lot that can happen with this game. Like I mentioned, I've already clinched the playoff spot. I've actually clinched the 3 seed at this point because of my differential. So the only way my seeding can change in a way that matters is if I pick up the 1 seed, which would require Blue to lose his last game. Since that didn't happen, this game has no bearing on playoff seeding for me whatsoever. There was potential at the time for Tarot to make playoffs if either Encelga or Lunar lost their week 8 game. And then also I think pending some differential stuff, if I'm not mistaken. So there was potential for Tarot to win this game and then be in if one of those two lost. So I didn't feel like it was right to meme this game since it could affect, who makes playoffs and everything. But at the same time, if I do lose this game and Tarot makes playoffs, I don't want to have brought like my best prep. So what I did was I made 2 teams for this go around, and I brought the lesser, or what I thought was the lesser of the 2 teams. Full disclosure, regardless of the outcome of this match, Tarot was not making playoffs because both Lunar and Encelga ended up winning. So I will be talking about the A team, but what I ended up bringing was the B team version, as it were. So let's get right into it here. Looking at the matchup, Tarot has available the Mega Latios Tornadus Therian form, Keldeo, Tangrowth, Salazzle, Necrozma, Skarmory, Crocodile, Blissey, Jolteon, and Azumarill. So right off the bat, a couple things. You got the double Psychic with Latios and Necrozma. I think you'd only bring one of the 2. Keldeo has a terrible matchup. That's the last thing I expect to see. Azumarill would only come if it's a kind of trapping set. A Belly Drum type set or Banded set does not make any sense versus me because I have Tentacruel, I have Tapu Bulu, I have Muck even. Like a lot of stuff that threatens the Azumarill. So I did not think the Azumarill would come unless it's like a Whirlpool trapping set, which I'll have to watch out for if that came. Obviously it didn't. Crocodile was an obvious bring, I think, because of Heatran, because of Raikou, because of Muck, all that stuff. It's even a decent check to the Aerodactyl to some extent. Also hits the Tentacruel pretty hard. So the Crocodile was pretty obvious. I felt like one of the Psychics would probably come. Skarmory was definitely coming. I wasn't sure if Skarm Bliss would come, but I was pretty sure the Skarmory itself was coming, so that's kind of just my general feelings. I felt like I had matchup in this one, which has actually been a rarity. I don't know that I drafted my best team this season, but it's played out pretty well for me, I think, overall. I do like playing the kind of bulky offense kind of style, so I've been happy with it overall, but I think other people drafted better teams, basically, is what I'm saying. This is my first foray into free draft, so I guess I wasn't as certain of what I should draft when and so forth. So I didn't get the best team, but I didn't get the worst team either, I don't think. And in this case, I do think I had team matchup here on paper. So looking at the team builder here, as I mentioned, I brought the B version of the team here. So there's a couple things on here that weren't on the B team, most notably being Tentacruel and Aerodactyl. I believe they were swapped out for Conkeldurr and Latios, maybe? Maybe Latios. Were the Tentacruel and the Aerodactyl. But anyways, B team here. B team's got Tentacruel. Tentacruel here is Jelly Belly running Icium Z Haze with Scald, Sludge Bomb, and Rapid Spin. Liquid Ooze ability to prevent the Tangrowth from healing up on me if he goes for Giga Drain or Leech Seed or anything like that. I didn't feel like Clear Body was doing anything for me this match, so Liquid Ooze it is. This is just a great check to the Azumarill. I'm running Max Fizz Def Tentacruel here, so I do outspeed the Azumarill naturally, just without any speed investment, and I can just come in on every variant of Azumarill under the sun. If he's running a trapping variant, I have Rapid Spin to get out of the Whirlpool. If he's running Belly Drum, I can haze that thing. If he's running Banded, Knockoff's not even going to do that much to me because I have the Icium Z Crystal. And Z Haze, if you don't know, actually gets you back up to full health after you use it. So if I'm chipped down later in the game or something and he goes for Belly Drum, I can go for Z Haze. He maybe Aqua Jets me to try and KO me, I don't know. But whatever the case, I can haze off that thing and make sure it can't belly drum up on me and win the game. So like I mentioned, I don't think Belly Drum Azumarill makes any sense versus me because I do have like a Bulu and I have the Tentacruel and stuff. But if he did bring that, this bodies that. It also bodies, like I mentioned, the trapping set. It's also a decent switch into like Keldeo, Tangrowth, even Skarmory over the course of the match. I can bring this thing in, get off rapid spins, throw off Scalds to try and snag some burns, that kind of thing. Is pretty much what I'm expecting from Tentacruel this game. Under grassy terrain, I can live a Earthquake from the Crocodile as well, which is relevant. Next up here, we've got Richard Parker the Raikou. So this was one that I just changed the set from A Team to B Team. So A Team had Subcom Mind with Signal Beam and Thunderbolt, Life Orb. Maybe Expert Bell on that one, can't remember. But much more offensive variant of Raikou was on the B Team, or on the A Team, but this variant of Raikou on the B Team is Vinku. So we're running Subtoxic, Thunderbolt, Protect, close to max speed, max special attack. I didn't actually even bother to change the EVs from the A Team Raikou, but with leftovers, of course. This takes advantage of my grassy terrain really nicely. Leftovers plus grassy terrain can heal up a substitute if I go for Protect afterwards, which is nice. And I can sub up on a lot of stuff on his team. I can sub up on Tornadus, since that thing shouldn't want to stay in on me. I can sub up on Tangrowth. I can sub up, or not sub up on Tangrowth. I can sub up on Skarmory, predicting Tangrowth. I can sub up on Keldeo. I can sub up on Azumarill. All that kind of stuff that should be threatened out by my Raikou. I can get up a substitute and potentially start Toxic stalling some stuff. The main things I'd like to Toxic are the Tangrowth and the Crocodile. Getting a Toxic off on Crocodile is going to be very important because, as I mentioned, the A Team had Conkeldurr. This team does not have Conkeldurr. It's much weaker to Crocodile. So, getting a Toxic off on that thing would be really, really important. So I could sub-stall it down later in the game. But I felt like Raikou had a really good matchup. Whatever set I ended up bringing, like I mentioned, offensive Calm Mind variant on the A Team, I think would have been a little bit better. But I felt like the set was also pretty viable this match. Next up here is Friend of Dave, the Alolan Muck. Same set on both teams in this instance. Iapapa Berry, Alolan Muck with Gluttony, Poison Jab, Knockoff, Curse, Recycle. Didn't need more coverage than Poison Jab, Knockoff. Curse is really nice versus team because his main threats to this thing are like the Crocodile, for example, going for Earthquake. Mega Latios going for Earthquake. Necrozma going for Earthquake. Like, things that would be running physically offensive sets are really the biggest threats to the Muck because Muck can take hits from Keldeo, it can take hits from Tornadus, can take hits from a lot of stuff on his team. Pretty much all of his special offense I can take hits from. But his physical offense, not quite as much. Things like a Azumarill could potentially hit me with a big play rough, things like that. The Curse is really nice for. I can just Curse Recycle up and potentially 1v6 his team if I get enough Curses up. If I'm like last mon Muck, I'm pretty sure I'm in a good position to win, assuming I'm out of range of whatever the Crocodile might be going for at that point in the game. So Curse Muck just really, really nice in this game. Knockoff can spread some... can remove some items from his team, remove items from Crocodile, which is potentially going to be Choice Scarf to outspeed my Aerodactyl. Can remove a Rocky Helmet or leftovers from the Skarmory, which would be nice for me. So, just a really good matchup here for Muck on paper. There's a lot of stuff I can curse up on. Next up here is Mega Aerodactyl. Like I mentioned, Mega Aerodactyl was left off the A Team, but I felt like because it was the last game of the season and I brought Mega Aerodactyl to all the other ones, and this game didn't matter in terms of my seeding or anything, might as well bring Mega Aerodactyl, make it a perfect 8 for 8. Coming in with Aerial Ace, Earthquake, Crunch, and Pursuit this game. I didn't feel like I needed Stone Edge because I don't think you ever stay in with me with Tornadus, and Earthquake hits the Salazzle anyways. So I didn't think I needed Stone Edge here, and what that allowed me to do was fit on Pursuit. Pursuit's really nice because I can threaten out things like Latios and get a big Pursuit off. I can threaten out the Salazzle, get Pursuit damage off on that thing. Just really valuable. I can even Pursuit the Blissey potentially later in the game. Just a really nice option to predict switches here out of my Mega Aerodactyl because Skarmory is so free against Mega Aerodactyl. I think you just go into it. So I should be able to Pursuit whatever he's currently got on the field before that happens. Crunch is the secondary form of Dark Stab there to hit things like Latios and Necrozma a little bit harder. Earthquake is just good coverage versus team. It's Jolteon, hits Salazzle, things like that. And Aerial Ace just kind of rounds out the coverage, particularly for the Tangrowth. Next up here is Vulcan the Heatran, running a very specially defensive Heatran here. Enough speed for some reason to creep max speed Azumarill. Don't know why I crept Azumarill with this thing, but I did. Maybe if I could taunt it to prevent it from regular belly drumming, no idea. But I ran enough speed for the Azumarill, rest dumped into a calm nature with max HP, and the rest into Spadef. Leftovers, Magma Storm, Taunt, Stealth Rock, and Earth Power. The idea behind this set is I can come in on Skarmory basically for free and set up my own Stealth Rocks if I want to, but I can also just throw off Magma Storms versus team. It doesn't really have many good Magma Storm switch-ins in general, and the things that do switch into Magma Storm, i.e. basically the Salazzle, does not appreciate Earth Power. Yeah, and I can taunt a Blissey switch in, so if I go for Magma Storm on the switch into Blissey, I can taunt him, prevent him from soft boiling, prevent him from stealth rocking, anything like that, and I can potentially 1v1 that thing with Heatran if I really need to remove the Blissey. Last up here is Tapu Ulu, the Tapu Bulu. So running leftovers, Tapu Bulu, Leech Seed, Horn Leech, Mega Horn, and Stone Edge. Don't ask me why I made these EVs, but it's max HP, same speed as Heatran, and then I dumped it into Adamant with the rest into Attack. Like, I didn't really know where to put the EVs on this Bulu, and I didn't spend a ton of time making this team, so I just ran Adamant Bulu. Spidef Bulu or Fizdef Bulu might have made a little more sense, especially because it's my main Crocodile check. Yeah, Fizdef Bulu probably would have made a lot more sense, but did not do that, so unfortunately we're running a little bit more of an offensive variant of Bulu for some reason. Yeah, needed Bulu for Crocodile, otherwise this matchup isn't fantastic. Leech Seed, I guess, is nice to spread around his team. Potential switch-ins like Salazzle, Tornadus, Latios, Skarmory all don't appreciate Leech Seed, but Bulu's matchup is here basically for the Crocodile. Like I mentioned, Conkeldurr would have been very nice to have for the Crocodile, so I'd had something other than the Bulu to help me with it, but, you know, such is life. Conkeldurr made the A team, so he didn't make the B team. Anyways, let's get right into the match here. As you can see, he brought the Skarmory, Tangrowth, Crocodile, Tornadus, Salazzle, and Necrozma. Not too different from what I was expecting here. Lead options, I've basically got 2 on my end, maybe 3. Like, I could lead Raikou here, but I don't think it's really worth leading Raikou if he wants to lead Crocodile or anything like that. Same deal with Heatran. Heatran's another potential lead option, predicting a Skarmory or a Tangrowth or a Tornadus or something like that. Salazzle. It would match up well versus those, but I really just don't want him to lead Crocodile for super free here. But I also don't want to lead with Bulu, so I'm just going to lead with Aerodactyl instead. Aerodactyl should outspeed everything on his team, bar Choice Scarfers. I think the only thing he'd have choice versus me is the Crocodile, if anything, and I should live a Scarf Stone Edge from Crocodile. Or I've got my Bulu anyways as a potential switch-in, so Aerodactyl just seemed like the freest lead, so that's exactly what I'm going to lead with here, as he ends up leading with the Salazzle. So I don't think you bring Salazzle versus me ever unless you're carrying Toxic, because I do have Heatran, I do have Tentacruel, I do have Muck, among other things. So this is definitely Toxic Salazzle, and that's actually a pretty big threat to my team. So what I'm going to do here is just click Pursuit turn 1. Any chip damage on this Salazzle is good chip damage, because it means I should be able to knock it out guaranteed with my Heatran's Earth Power later. I should be able to knock it out with Knockoff from my Muck, Thunderbolt from my Raikou, all that stuff. Really good to get some Pursuit damage off on the Salazzle, especially because the Skarmory switch-in is so obvious. So free Pursuit on the first turn there for my Aerodactyl. Get my Mega off and get some good chip on that Salazzle. As I mentioned, Skarmory is always a free Heatran, even if he doubles out predicting me. I still got like the Bulu in the back to help deal with the Crocodile, so free Heatran here. I've got a couple options. I could set Stealth Rocks myself, but I think the better option here is to just go for Magma Storm, predicting him to sack the Salazzle. Unfortunately, the Magma Storm plus Inferno damage isn't going to be enough to KO the Salazzle. I didn't actually calc before I went for the Magma Storm. I was just like, this kills, right? It's a Salazzle. It does not kill, unfortunately, and it won't even actually die to another turn of Inferno. So instead of being able to get my Stealth Rocks up here, as I'm predicting him to go for Toxic, I just have to Earth Power and KO this Salazzle. So Salazzle's gone at least. It only got 1 Toxic off on my team, which is good. I'm glad it was Heatran and not Muck or Tentacruel. I felt like Heatran was somehow like not the worst thing being Toxic here, even though it's good to deal with Tornadus, Skarmory, Tangrowth, all those things. It's not as important as like my Muck, say, so I'd rather have him Toxic this in the first place. So here out comes the Necrozma. I'm predicting him to think my Muck is coming in here on a potential Psychic type move, or that he just click Earthquake because my Heatran was in. So free switch out into Bulu here to get up the Grassy Terrain, as he does have Earthquake. Nice that it's Earthquake and not Earth Power, because Earth Power's damage obviously is not nerfed by the Grassy Terrain. Here I'm going to actually double out of my Bulu, predicting the Skarm switch in. I could have gone Heatran here, but I felt like it was more worth it to me to get rid of these Stealth Rocks. So what I did was go out into Tentacruel here. First thing I'm actually going to do is Scald, because he could potentially stay in here if he's like a Rocky Helmet variant of Skarmory, and that would be good information for me to know. Or his other option was to switch out into Crocodile or Necrozma, predicting a Rapid Spin, and I could potentially burn those things, which would have been great. Unfortunately, I do not get the burn on the Necrozma here. It's no big deal. It's only a 30% chance to get the Scald burn anyways, but what I'm going to do is actually Rapid Spin here, thinking he'd predict my Muck on the switch in, but he actually just goes straight for Photon Geyser, so that's going to be a huge chunk of health off my Tentacruel, as at least I'm able to get rid of rocks. But my Tentacruel is now pretty weak, and there's not a whole lot that I can Z-Haze up on. Like, I guess I could Z-Haze on the Skarmory or the Tangrowth later in the game, potentially. But health on my Tentacruel is not super important. Like, he didn't bring the Azumarill, he doesn't have Keldeo or anything like that, so it's not super important to keep my Tentacruel healthy anyways. Here what I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot through Muck into my Tapu Bulu, because Grassy Terrain's about to end here, so if I went hard Tapu Bulu, my terrain would be done, which is not good. So what I did was actually go Muck to catch the Photon Geyser, and then Bulu to catch the Earthquake. As it turns out, he's actually Z-Ground Necrozma, so it's really, really nice to pop that early in the game. Makes my Muck's job a lot easier on the back end, but yeah, getting rid of that Z move early game is amazing for me. As I get my Bulu in here, to heal up a little bit from Grassy Terrain plus Leftovers. Here I make a little bit of an over prediction. I'm thinking he'd go into Skarmory here to deal with my Tapu Bulu, so I'm just going to go for Leech Seed, predicting the Skarmory. Even if he went Tangrowth, I would have gotten myself back up to basically full health. But unfortunately, he goes for a knockoff there, removes my Leftovers, which is a huge problem because this Bulu is actually very important for my Crocodile, or for his Crocodile. And I'm going to make kind of compound the misplay here by thinking, okay, he's got, knockoff, Photon Geyser, Earthquake. His last move is probably Swords Dance, right? So I'm predicting him to go Scarm now, so I go for double Leech Seed, and that turned out to be a really bad play because he has Iron Head instead as his last move. So I guess it was reasonable on my end to think that he'd have Swords Dance as his last move, not Iron Head. But going for the double Leech Seed there really cost me, because now my Bulu is not going to be able to kind of get back up to the amount of health where I'd like it to be to take on the Crocodile. So I'm just going to go for Horn Leech here, get some big damage off on the Necrozma at least, heal up a little bit with my Bulu. But here I can't really afford to let my Bulu take any more damage. I'm already close to in range, I think, of a Crocodile hit, if he's got Iron Tail or Sludge Wave or whatever. So I'm really starting to worry about that Crocodile in the back for sure. But I can't let Bulu take another Iron Head, like I mentioned, so I'm going to go out into Raikou, scouting for another Iron Head, as he does go for it. With the Leech Seed, I should get back to full health after this turn, which is nice. And here I'm thinking he'd just sack off the Necrozma. It's at 11%, so I felt like he'd probably just get rid of it at this point. Like, it dies to Stealth Rocks if I get those up. I feel like it wasn't worth saving Necrozma, so I went for Thunderbolt there. I also didn't want him to Earthquake, predicting me to predict him to switch out or anything like that, so I made the kind of straightforward Thunderbolt play. Unfortunately, it gets in the Tangrowth. A Toxic there would have been super nice, or even a Substitute would have been super nice. But unfortunately now, I'm just going to have to go out into the Aerodactyl, predicting a Ground-type move here, as he does have Stomping Tantrum instead of Earthquake, which is pretty cool tech, because Stomping Tantrum is obviously not nerfed by the Grassy Terrain. But here, again, it's a pretty free Skarmory on my Aerodactyl, so I'm going to double into my Heatran this time. And this is just a free Magma Storm. I think you would sack Necrozma here, if anything. It's at 11%, like I mentioned, so if I get Stealth Rocks up, it's dead. So I'm going to go for Magma Storm here. Unfortunately, he goes Torn first, not Necrozma. Obviously, this is going to do actually really nice damage to the Tornadus. Thankfully, we land that Magma Storm there, but now I'm just going to set up my Stealth Rocks. Like, if he goes out into Necrozma, he goes out into Necrozma, but it's not super worth me going for another Magma Storm here. I could miss, I could do whatever. I'd rather just get my Stealth Rocks up to pressure this Tornadus later in the game. I don't think you ever stay in here, so I go for Stealth Rocks, hoping that he goes into something besides the Necrozma, I guess, but he does go Necrozma here, which is a little unfortunate for me, because now I still have the issue of Earthquake and Iron Head and all this stuff. So I'm going to have to get a little bit cute with the Necrozma right now. I get my Stealth Rocks up, which is nice to chip down his Tornadus specifically, as well as his Tangrowth and his Skarmory. But now I'm going to have to play around with this Necrozma a little bit. Going to go Bulu first, get up the terrain. Obviously scouting for Earthquake here once again as he goes for it. So that's kind of a net neutral play. I get up Grassy Terrain. Great. But now I can't let him Iron Head me, because if he Iron Heads me, even if I Horn Leech, I don't get back that much recovery. So I'm going to be in range of pretty much anything Crocodile wants to go for. So what I decide to do is go back out into Raikou again, predicting the Iron Head. I do once again catch an Iron Head, which is good. So catching the Iron Head is great for me there. I'm going to get pretty much back up to full here with Lefties plus Grassy Terrain recovery. And here, this time I really don't think he saves the Necrozma. I'm just going to make the Thunderbolt play again. I can't risk him staying in to go for Photon Geyser or anything like that and taking a bunch of damage off my Raikou. And I thought maybe he'd predict me to predict the Tangrowth this time and go for something else, so I felt like Thunderbolt was the best play there to get rid of the Necrozma, and thankfully he let it die this time. So no more weird pivoting around that thing at least, but he is going to be able to get into Tangrowth pretty freely to click either Stomping Tantrum or Giga Drain once again. My best play to start out here is to go into Alolan Muck. With my berry intact on the grassy terrain, Stomping Tantrum doesn't bother me too much, and I was kind of expecting the Giga Drain because the terrain is up. So getting in the Muck there is really nice. I could potentially start cursing up here. He's obviously got to be threatened by the Poison type move. I'm thinking this is AV Tangrowth. I actually didn't count the Thunderbolt damage, but I think it's AV. Anyways, I'm just going to go for Knockoff here. Knockoff is my best overall play. I'm going to get an item off something. Because that was the Necrozma, so Knockoff is a really good play here to get rid of what was an Expert Belt on the Crocodile. That's going to come in super clutch later in the game, as you'll end up seeing. But able to knock off the Crocodile there. Obviously, I have to fear the Ground-type move here, and a lot of my team does not appreciate said Ground-type move, so I'm going to go into Bulu, as he makes a really nice play and goes straight for the Iron Tail. I mean, I guess on my end it was pretty obvious that I wasn't going to go into something that was weak to ground. I guess I could have sacked off the Tentacruel, and in hindsight that was probably the better play because I could have gotten in Bulu afterwards to heal up a little bit. But what are you going to do? I went into Bulu first, unfortunately, which means he's going to be able to KO me here with Iron Tail into Knockoff. And now it's pretty difficult for me to deal with this Crocodile, actually. As you can see, my team doesn't deal with it super well. My best option here is to go into Aerodactyl. He shouldn't knock me out with an Iron Tail, and I should 2-hit KO him back with Aerial Ace. So I'm just going to go for Aerial Ace here, hoping he stays in basically to take a bunch of damage for no reason. But goes right out into Skarmory, as was always the good play for him. Again, I could have predicted that and gone out into Heatran, but if he just stayed in, really it's not a good look for me to double out into Heatran. I'd already doubled on the Skarmory coming in twice, so I really didn't feel like he'd stay in. Or I really didn't feel like he'd risk that again, because if I got in like Heatran on this Skarm switch in, that would have been super nice for me, but oh well. Here I get in the Raikou for free this time on the Skarmory. Because Grassy Terrain is up and it's about to end, I'd like to take a little bit of advantage of it at least by going for a substitute here with my Raikou. There's not much his Skarmory should be able to do to me besides Whirlwind anyways, which I don't think you'd risk there with the Skarm, but especially because my Mega Aerodactyl is still healthy. So I go for substitute here, predicting the Tangrowth or Crocodile switch in. Since I do get Tangrowth, I'm just going to be able to go for a Toxic here. I guess I would have gone for a Toxic either way, but we're going for a Toxic here on the Tangrowth. I guess I could have protected up first, but it really didn't matter too much. Go for Toxic, get the Tangrowth, start to whittle that thing down. Very nice for my Raikou here. He goes for Stomping Tantrum to break the substitute. And now there's kind of a weird guessing game going on here, because if I go for Protect on a turn that he goes Crocodile, I'm in a little bit of trouble. But if I go for Sub on the turn he goes Crocodile, I'm doing pretty well. So I go for Protect first because I haven't shown it yet. I figure, okay, he'll stay in with Tangrowth, not too chipped yet. He's got Regenerator and everything. He should stay in this turn. I go for Protect here, get a little bit more chip off on the Tangrowth. Great. This turn, definitely going for Substitute. Substitute's my best play no matter what. If he stays in with Tangrowth, he's taking more Toxic chip. If he goes Crocodile, I can get a Toxic off on that thing, and then I win. But yeah, so easy play there, going for Substitute. Here's where the mind game starts to come into effect. He's starting to really get whittled down with this Toxic damage. Also, I just showed Protect and Substitute. If I go for Protect again as he goes Crocodile, it's problematic for me. So I try to catch the Crocodile by going for Substitute, but unfortunately he does stay in with the Tangrowth, just probably looking to sack it off at this point. Its job is probably, really at this point, its job is to kill my Raikou anyways, or to try and wall my Raikou to some extent anyways. Since I'm Vinku, it's not doing that job very well. I guess he probably decided to just kind of sack it off here. So I'm going to go for Protect one more time, just get a little bit more HP up on my Raikou here and chip down the Tangrowth a little bit more, but yeah, just going to do that with my Raikou. He seems pretty content to sack off the Tangrowth at this point. I don't think he's going to go for anything besides another attack with his Tangrowth here. So I'm not going to stay in to Substitute one more time. It seems like a waste to me. So I'm just going to sack off my Tentacruel as he elects to sack off his Tangrowth. So he goes for Giga Drain, knocks me out. With the Liquid Ooze and the Toxic damage, he's just going to die. So it's a double down here. Here I make a little bit of a misplay. It's pretty obvious that he should go Crocodile, I think. It's pretty obvious anyways that he should go Crocodile here. So what I should have done is go into Raikou, because even if he went Tornadus or Skarm, I'm in a great spot because I can sub up. But if he goes Crocodile, I could poison that thing, which would be amazing for my Aerodactyl. Plus, I didn't realize at the time that it was actually Intimidate Crocodile, not Moxie, which means because of the Intimidate drop, I'm not going to be able to 2-hit KO this thing with Aerial Ace. So, really big misplay by me there, but at this point, I can't switch Aerodactyl out and then back in on rocks to take another hit from the Crocodile, so I'm just going to go for Aerial Ace straight up here, as he goes for the Iron Tail, lands it, but thankfully, because I knocked off his Expert Belt, he does not knock me out, which means I can go for another Aerial Ace, get a little bit more chip damage on him. At this point, I'm basically thinking that I lose, because if he has Earthquake, he just cleans here. Everything on my team dies to Earthquake from this range, from this Crocodile, so I'm thinking, yeah, it's GG, you know. It doesn't super matter, like I mentioned, for playoffs, but it's always good to win, right? So we go on to Raikou here. My only hope here is to get really lucky with Protects and stall him out of Earthquakes. I believe you get 16 Earthquakes, so if I get... what's the math? I think I can get 3 substitutes out of this, so I need 5 Protects and 3 substitutes, so I think I need to get 1 double Protect as he goes for only Earthquake. I think that's the only way I can win this game, is if I get rid of all of his Earthquakes. So what I do here is I go for... he goes for Stomping Tantrum, actually, as I go for Protect, and Muck actually lives Stomping Tantrum. So what I'm going to do here is actually Toxic the Crocodile to put it in range of my Muck, or guarantee that it'll die to my Muck's Poison Jab plus Toxic damage. And like I mentioned, I do live this hit from Crocodile because he doesn't have Earthquake, he's running the Stomping Tantrum. So what I'm going to do here is go out into my Muck, go for the Poison Jab here, and just hope I don't die to Stomping Tantrum. Like I mentioned, getting rid of that Expert Belt earlier, coming in super clutch there because I do live the Stomping Tantrum, and I'm able to eat my Papa Berry, and now Muck can just solo his team. Like, Tornado should not be able to knock me out from this range, and I can just recycle up on that thing. It is Life Orb, so it'll be taking some chip damage, and Skarmory really shouldn't be able to do much to me. I can recycle up on that thing as well, and start to curse up in its face. So he does go into Skarmory first. Like I mentioned, Tornado should not have knocked me out from this range. I'm just going to recycle here. His only hope here is to flinch me twice with Iron Head. Does not get any flinches, unfortunately, from my opponent. So, get the recycle off there. Going to get my Muck back up to a pretty decent amount of health. Here the play is definitely to recycle again. I need the Barrier active to help check the Tornadus, potentially. I'm pretty sure he's carrying like Focus Blast for my Heatran, so I'm going to need that Barrier active for sure. So I'm going to recycle up here as he goes for another Iron Head again, not getting the flinch, thankfully. And here's where I get to start cursing. So because I have my Berry intact, I can curse on this Skarmory now. If he has Whirlwind, he has Whirlwind. What's he Whirlwinding me out into? He's Whirlwinding me out into Heatran if he has it. So I'm going to go for the curse here as I eat my Papa Berry again. Big Papa coming in clutch on the Muck here. So if he doesn't have Whirlwind, he just loses at this point, but I'm going to recycle anyways, because if he does have Whirlwind, he's going to get me the heck out of here, and there's no reason for me to stay in. So I'm going to recycle here, get my Berry back, and since I'm faster, I do expect that he has the Whirlwind on this turn, as he does, which is, like I mentioned, fine with me, because you're Whirlwinding me out into Heatran, so I can just throw off a Magma Storm here, super free. It'll kill the Skarmory if he decides to leave that in. And if he goes out into Tornadus, it should drop to Magma Storm plus Stealth Rocks here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw off a Magma Storm and hope we land. I've already landed 2 Magma Storms today. Can we land a third on this Tornadus? It turns out that we can. So we land this last Magma Storm on the Tornadus here. So 3 for 3 on Magma Storms. And actually, spoiler alert, we're going to be 4 for 4 because we're going to land another one to knock out this Skarmory. So GG to Taro, 2-0 victory for us. Like I mentioned, Earthquake Crocodile did clean there. I understand bringing the Stomping Tantrum as the Bulu tech with the Crocodile, but it was maybe just a little bit too much in this instance, and it did cost him the match, unfortunately. You hate to see a small kind of prep thing like that end up costing a match, but like I mentioned, or I might have mentioned, Enceliga and Lunar ended up winning anyways, so Taro couldn't have made playoffs regardless, but very good game, very well played, good prep on his end, I think, for sure. Kind of wish I had brought the A team, it might have gone a little bit smoother, but I felt like it was worth keeping that in the back, just in case he ended up making playoffs. I felt like it was worth keeping that in the back, but yeah, that's going to be a win for us. That means we finished the season 7-1, remain the number 2 overall seed in the MWPA Earth Division, and 4 teams make playoffs. So, like I mentioned, this game didn't matter too much for who I was going to play. I was pretty certain I was going to play Lunar again anyways, as we are. So Lunar is the 3 seed. He's the only one who beat me during the regular season. Of course, I didn't end up playing Blue, which was a nice dodge for me, but Lunar was the only one to beat me during the regular season with his Coco Lucha, Kyurem Black, Lycanroc, what else did he bring? Blastoise, and Savali Poison, I think that game was the squad he brought. So he pretty much stomped me that game. I think it only turned out to be a 3-0, but that game did not go so well. So hopefully we have a little bit better of a time here in playoffs, at least give them a closer game, if not pick up the W. I'd really, really like to win this game. I feel like the season can be considered a success if I even make finals. Of course, I would love to win finals, but making it there in the first place would be a big success for me, I think, especially because I consider my matchup versus Lunar to be really, really bad, and Lunar's a very good player. So if I can pick up a win next week in the semifinals, that would be huge, huge, huge for me, and potentially get me promoted, maybe, mods, potentially get me promoted to Venus for next season. If I lose, probably a little cloudier, probably not so likely to get promoted. So definitely trying to pick up a win next week. I'm prepping pretty hard over here, trying to figure out a way to deal with this team a little bit better than I did the first time around. But yeah, Lunar on tap for next week. Hope you guys tune in for that one, and thank you guys very much for sticking out for this video if you did. As always, continue to come back here for more Draft League content, and I'll see you guys all later. Bye bye.